Hello everybody, it's me Farham, and today we're going to talk about the little patch that almost could. 0.2G landed while I was asleep, then it went in, it went out, shook it all about, some skill gems got deleted, and it's going to be re-released tonight. So, we've got the details though, all of the patch notes, all of the changes, and some of them I'm not sure how much of an impact this is actually going to have on the end game. I feel like we're going to see a rapid inflation based on a massive increase in rare currencies. I think we'll see a big inflation of exalts against divines. I think we'll see an inflation of divines against omens. And what we'll generally see is that things are about the same, that there's just a lot more exalts and things lurking around. We'll be able to slam all those fancy teardrops that we're going to be getting that we can't filter out. But I don't see a big change to any desire to want to run any endgame content. Although we will go through and talk about where I could be wrong on that initial assumption, possibly being a bit of a doomer. Maybe not, but I don't think that this patch stresses many of the major issues that there currently are with endgame. But with that pre-word about what this is going to be like out of the way, let's get into this. So starting off then with the item drop changes. The modified rarity value at which normal items no longer drop. So, unique bosses will never drop normal items. I believe that might be a generic change to normal items. What we might see is a massive decrease in things like white stellars, heavy belts, and we might see an increase in the value of those drops. If you've been hoarding them, then good for you. They might go up in price. They've halved the amount of rare gold drops, so if you do get a rare item, it's more likely to be rare equipment or rare currency. This is great. I think everyone gets enough gold. This has been balanced out by gold piles being twice as large, so although we won't see as many, we'll still get the same amount of gold. Woo. But what it does mean is it leaves space for other drops. Rare currency, in particular, is probably what we're looking for. I'm sure we're all sick of tier rares by now. Gold, magic currency, quality currency, flasks, charms, and runes are now much less likely to drop from monsters with high item rarity. Those changes generally result in about 20 to 30% more rare currency. So, I mean, there's a lot of changes that mean we should be seeing a lot more exalts and things coming out of maps. And therefore, we will see an inflation of exalts against divines. Tier 2 rare items now drop 4 times more often. Tier 3 to 5 now drop 30% more often. I really don't like this change. I don't like the next change about Tier 2 and higher magic items now drop 5 times more often. The reason for that is there's no quality of life around the item filter to filter out shit bases. And the best will in the world, I've learned the items that I use on my build. I haven't learned the top tiers of all the other items, and this would be fine if everything was still called expert, but I think it's just going to result in a lot of map clutter. See a lot of tiered rares, tiered magic items that we just don't want. But there we go. I mean, they have as well improved the modifiers that are going to be on the tier rares, so it might be worth picking up the good bases and identifying them. In fact, it is worth picking up the good bases and identifying, and we should see more of them. So maybe, just maybe, this will use up some of those exalts that we're dropping everywhere now. I don't think it'll be quite enough. We need a way to dump exalts, especially if they're increasing the drop rate of them. There's got to be a way to get them out of the economy, or inflation just runs rampant. Let's cover off the next 4 as a bit of a group. They're themed in the sense that there's not much there. So the unique monsters, unique bosses from the start of Act 1 will always drop a rare item. In campaign, you will get guaranteed rare item the first time you kill each boss. In maps, you'll always get it because you only kill the boss once, right, in the map. So we're going to get at least 1 rare. Fantastic. That's great. Change. Asmerian Wisps, so rare monsters possessed by Asmerian Wisps now always drop a rare item. Will change. Fixed a bug where the first Wisp in Grelwood didn't have any item rarity or quantity stats. Okay. I mean, I don't think I even used the Wisp when I'm going through the campaign. I'm just finishing the campaign, but I guess it's nice that it does something now. I really think Wisps have been terrible. I don't think the implementation's good. As soon as you've got an endgame character, as soon as you're into proper endgame builds, you're clearing half a screen away, and the Wisp just doesn't end up in the rare. Trying to get the Wisp to a rare is a pain in the arse. There needs to be another way that they are implemented. They need to either be attached to the character or automatically in the rares. They're just... There's already chase items from these Wisps. There's already really good talismans. but playing with them is just terrible. So I don't think as many people are doing it as they would, because it's just a frustrating mechanic to try and play around with, just with how the end game is. People are not doing parry, backflip, tornado in the end game. They're zooming. And the wisps are just a massive slowdown. I just think their implementation needs to be completely overhauled. Rare and magic chests. So this is really going to hit Elon's game. He is a very big chest enjoyer. Clicking on them now will give you more items, basically. They might be worth clicking on, right? But I largely, again, I'm not running around my map clicking on chests. I'm just blowing up the packs of monsters. However, strong boxes. So strong boxes have been overhauled, and in particular, researchers' strong boxes have had the currency, the higher chance to drop rare currency instead of magic currency. Now, researchers' strong boxes were one I would hit all the time anyway, so that is good. They might be actually worth doing. So strong boxes might be okay now with the extra rarity and the reduced variance in items. They should consistently drop good items. They were dropping just piles of crap before, so I think they're probably going to be worth a look. Next up, changes to the trials. So we've got changes to Trial of Sechamus. They're going to have guaranteed rare items. There's a lot of guaranteed rare items around. I think this is how they're assuming we're going to dump the exalts out the market, just slamming up these rare items. Okay. Silver and gold chests increase item rarity and item quantity by value significantly higher than before. That's good. So getting more general loot out of Trial of the Sechamus is going to be nice. Arcanist chests have had the same improvements to drop composition as Researcher's strongboxes. That's good. Arcanist chests and royal chests are now much more common. That's really good. This is actually sounding like Trial of the Sechamus. Good money spinner. The rabbit might be happy with that. He loves a last flame. The chance of getting silver and gold keys as room rewards instead of bronze keys has been significantly increased. Good, so Trial of the Sechamus probably worth a look. Some zoomy classes coming up, no doubt. And in Trial of the Chaos, corrupted rares are being phased out from the rewards and rare currency stacks are phased in. That says stacks, so a stack of divines? Maybe a stack of mirrors? Who knows? But that's nice. I think upping the rewards on the trials is probably good. I mean, the generic rewards that you get through, so it's not just about the chase uniques. They still have valid chase uniques. Some of the few bits of content that do. Items that drop from monsters in the trial no longer have a chance to be corrupted. So there's just going to be a general increase of better tier loot from the trials. But it does seem, again, quite focused on the currency, although the jewels should be very nice from the royal chests, and just the increase in gold keys to get more of the good chests opened at the end of the Sechamus might make it worth running. Next up, we've got quite a few changes to Expedition, particularly how it interacts with maps, and in fact, probably an incentive to actually run the logbooks rather than just look for the boss. At least I hope that's what this is going to incentivize, because I really don't like the fact that it's just boss fishing for the logbooks. So Expedition Magic and Rare chests now have the same base balance as other endgame Magic and Rare chests. That has been increased significantly. Normal Expedition chests have also been improved. Fantastic, good improvements. We also fixed a bug where increased chest item rarity from Expedition Remnants was not multiplying correctly with chest item rarity the chest already had. These remnants will now have a greater effect. So, buffing up the chests going to be better. Buff the rewards from most Expedition Remnant mods. Double the number of Expedition artifacts that drop. Increase the amount of exotic coinage that drops by plus 50%. There's been a massive deflation in the value of Expedition artifacts, so I expect this is just going to push that further in that direction, however, over the coming week. Expedition Remnant upside modifiers have generally been buffed. Several Expedition Remnant downsides have been adjusted. The Expedition Remnant modifier that caused monsters to have 100% chance to avoid being chilled, frozen, ignited, or shocked, has been replaced with a new modifier that increases their ailment threshold. I suppose that means that real, baller builds are going to be able to bust through that ailment threshold and still shock, but once you're doing that much damage, you probably don't care about their ailment threshold anyway. And there's been 2 new Expedition Remnant upside modifiers that can be found in map areas. So, some changes generally to the amount of currency and Expedition-specific currency that's going to drop. But as I said, with the deflation of that currency against Exalts over the last week, I expect that just to be exacerbated. So we'll probably see drop in the value of running Expedition, even though there'll be more clicks you have to do to pick up the stuff. So they made some changes to Delirium as well. I believe this will affect both maps and inside the simulator. But increase the amount of item rarity per depth in Delirium encounters. It increases to approximately 2.5 times what it was before. I expect this to have an impact, Simulacrum, because technically you're going deeper into the fog and getting delirious effect, so I'm expecting that delirious effect is going to impact the rarity at the end of the simulacrum as well by 2.5 times, which should be good. However, that being said, the delirious percentage scaling with waves in simulacrum has been reduced. So previously we were getting to 140% on difficulty 4. That will now be 115%. If it's 2.5 times what it was before, that's the equivalent of, quick maths, somewhere around 380%, right? No, 280. Bad maths. About 280% increased drops is what we should see in simulacrum. And many modifiers have been reduced. So the positive impact they have on the delirium monsters has been scaled down. Not only that, we are going to see a slight decrease in difficulty. Damage is reduced by half of what the delirium value was. So we were previously having our damage reduced by 70%. That's now going to be 57.5. Yeah, 57.5. Which should mean that the later waves are significantly easier. That being said, and I'm going to pull up the game for this one, the accessibility to pinnacle content and Atlas passives. So the reduced number of corrupted nexuses, we need to complete the Atlas passive tree. The number of points we get is increased by 2.5 times. It's up to 5 from 2. So that should be done quicker. We're also going to be able to see them from further away, so we know where to go. That's fantastic. We may have been granted Atlas passive skill points, and apparently there's some scenarios where we will have had some reset. So do check those out. Make sure you've got them all assigned when you start the game up. Once this patch is released, because it's not released yet, because they had to roll it back, this is future advice if you're watching this video tomorrow. Breach splinter rates have been increased by 50%. They're already basically worthless, so that's just 50% more clicking to probably... They're probably just going to deflate in value, right? Because the drops from the breach boss haven't been increased. That's not better. In fact, if anything, the increased rarity probably means we're going to get less white breach rings from the boss, which means it's probably going to be worth less to run it. So these are going to... The fact it's just going to be 50% more clicking for less. Delirium splinter drop rates have been increased by plus 80%. And this is the part where I want to pull up the game. And I just want to talk about something. This is what... I was very confused by this because it almost feels to me like they don't quite know why the splinter drop rates are down. It's because this has been changed. This 50% increased stack size from non-unique monsters. Every single non-unique simulacrum monster drops 1 splinter. With 50%, they always drop 1 splinter. When you took this in patch 1, they used to drop 2 splinters, motivating you to actually go and complete the first 2 tiers of simulacrums because it would make it worthwhile to farm them. Okay, so you've just increased the drop rates by 80%. So now we're going to have to click on 80% more splinters rather than just fixing this, which would have doubled the splinter drop rate while not doubling the amount of clicks. Well, no, you haven't quite. It's 80% as good as this is going to be, but we have to click 80% more for it. It's the most bizarre way to fix this problem. It's almost like... I really... You know what? Of all the... This one bothered me a bit because this has been taken out. This does nothing. This does nothing now. It does absolutely... Pretty much. Well, it has the double difficulty scaling, but it doesn't change the splinter drop rate. So it just makes it harder. Anyway, I think this is an absolutely ridiculous change, and yeah, do you know, that's my biggest rant. Is it just feels like whoever's changed this has just gone up that number, rather than actually looking at the cause of the problem. So, anyway, been a number of player changes and other improvements, and the first one, I am a Trinity enjoyer on my build, but using a single element, and I believe this is a nerf to using single element, because you're never going to get the 250 total resonance, so you're never going to benefit from the quality attack speed, and also you're not going to be able to get as high resonance with 3 times 6 as you can with 10 times 2, right? 18. 20, we'd have to see how that scales out with... the increased Trinity levels. If it goes from 6 to 8, then 24 is better than... No, it'd be 24 versus 28 on total damage gained, so it might be that Trinity is no longer worth running, and builds can change around that. But effectively, it's been changed so that you get a lot more benefit for running all 3 elements, as it should. It is called Trinity. It is about running all 3 elements. The bonuses for running all 3 should be outweigh the bonuses for just running 1. So I think it's a thematic change to the skill for sure, but it is a bit of a nerf to some builds that are going to be using it, that's for sure. Then again, frees up a lot of spirit to do other stuff with. So back to the build design, eh? Back to path of building, see what fits. Next up, we've got Bayra's Anguish Charm. No longer guarantees a critical hit if any amount of chance to critically hit is present on the enemy. It will now roll critical hit chance normally in these cases. Most skills that have no mana cost, which you don't cast yourself, are now also granted a hidden no skill cost stat, preventing them from gaining additional costs, such as from Lich's Eldritch Empowerment notable passive skill. Examples include Elemental Discharge, Impending Dooms, Doom Blast, and Blink. Spells you cast yourself granted from wands and staves will still be able to get additional costs. So there was some things that weren't being scaled properly with, well, negatively scaled properly with the Lich's passive skills. That's been fixed. Bursting Plague now adds 100% of damage per second from poison as plague, previously 200%. Now stores up to a maximum of 20% of the enemy's life as plague, previously 10%. That sounds like a bit of a nerf. It's like half the damage, but it would give more of a impact damage. I don't believe that was in use so much that it was broken, but maybe I'm missing a build that was doing some really broken stuff with Bursting Plague. The Star Conjurer's Head unique helmet now causes damage from hits to be taken from your damageable companion's life before you. It was previously also non-damageable companions, so you could have just an invincible companion just soaking. Oh wow, cool. Missed that one. Lightning Bolt's radius is now 0.8 meters. Oh, that's a bit of a buff to the neck. Impale inflicted on players now lasts 4 seconds. Previously never expired. That's good. Flash Grenade can no longer blind the user or allies. Why? It's a flash grenade. If you look at it, it's going to blind you. Rubbish change. It should be able to blind you. Battle Shouts triggered explosion now counts as a Warcry skill. Hazards created by rearming will no longer count towards the maximum allowance of that hazard type. I can see some pretty big spear fields in the future. As we get into the other changes and improvements, so existing crystalline cores that are no longer obtainable have been deleted. Scepters, wands, and staves can now correctly roll an additional rune socket. Oh, that's good. That is very good, because I'm on a very presence-based build, and I'm dubious about moving over to the Sacred Flame, but that would mean we could get 40% presence on it. That's a bit spicy. Anyway, okay, that's a cool change. Yep, glad they've added that. It should have been in there from a start, but anyway. The number of monsters in Trials of Chaos areas below level 65 have been reduced. Okay, so it's going to make getting your ascendancies easier. Blade Lash Transcendence melee damage has been reduced and their attack distance has been adjusted. I think they were being used as a really good Spectre, so that might be a nerf to Spectre builds. I don't think that's an improvement. I'm not sure on that one though. The Leap Slam skill used by Violimps and Unearthed Urchins can now be dodged, blocked, and evaded. Nice. Earnwalker Scarab's Cloud skill now deals damage less frequently. Farham Plaguebringer's Detonate Dead skill has had its damage slightly lowered and the visual effects improved. Improve the visual effects of the stalking pustule monsters. I think they're the ones that explode. Temporarily disabled the Val Enforcer monster. Okay. I don't think that was that must have been being used for something broken as well. Improved the visibility of connections between maps on the Atlas, especially in the desert biome. Yeah, some of them are really, really bad recently. Added minimap icons for the landmark rooms found in Titan Grotto, Deshar, and Morden Quarry. Added a world map icon for Titan's Fall in the Titan Grotto. Added checkpoints on the Twisted Domain. So just some improvements to probably some of the monsters that were unfairly killing us. It's quite nice. And then, of course, there are bug fixes. I'm not going to go through them in that much detail unless they jump out as being particularly interesting. So, uncompletable maps have been fixed. Incorrect Atlas states fixed. Fracturing mirrors. Oh, fix a bug preventing fracturing mirrors spawning in Delirium. Oh, that is a good one. Oh, excellent. Okay, so it's actually going to be worth taking. Where is it? Where is it? Yeah, the mirrors might be worth it again instead of taking Would You Like to See My Face, which is doing nothing. Oh, excellent. Okay, that's a good one. That's a good change. I'm pro that change. Fortress map could place you in unwalkable terrain. Fantastic. Fixed a bug which caused the decay map to be inaccessible. Overwhelming Presence was not being affected by modifiers to the aura effect. Overwhelming Presence now reduces enemy stun threshold and element ailment threshold by a maximum of 90%. Oh, Overwhelming Presence might be good to run. Especially for freeze and shock builds. Manifest weapon died when taking damage for you. Fire's command, death from above would fail on uneven terrain. Waist guard, unique belt allowed charms to be equipped in flask equipment slots. Fixed a bug where ritual sacrifice would not grant you modifiers from sacrifice rare modifiers if you used it while affected by temporal... What weird. Fixed a visual bug where crafting on a fractured item with an omen of whittling, an omen of sinister erasure, or an omen of dexterous erasure could highlight the wrong modifiers. Fixed a bug where some persistent skills could have an incorrect spirit cost when affected by supports that could increase that cost. Fixed some instances where persistent minions were not being removed correctly when weapon swapping. Tame beasts could be active in a weapon set that did not have the appropriate attribute or spirit requirements. Fixed a bug where Lord of Pit in the devastated map was not being affected by modifiers to map boss difficulty, and run able to drop a Vanquisher's Book of Knowledge. Fixed a bug where Plague Bearer's Nova was not considered to be area damage. Fixed a bug... I think there's a few things that are affected by that at the moment. I don't believe that's just Plague Bearer's Nova. I think there's a whole bunch of skills that are not being considered area damage. Because you put concentrated effect in, and it's not affecting a whole bunch of skills on sheet damage, which it previously was in 0.1, so I think that's a much wider problem. Fixed a bug where Rattlecage the Earthbreaker in the Crimson Shores map would sometimes drop no items. Fixed a bug that prevented Zakotal, Warden of the Core, from using their wall laser skill. Oh, that's Red Dick guy. Fixed a bug where strong boxes with the Singularity modifier would sometimes fail to drop a unique item. Yeah, I've seen that one a few times. Fixed a bug where certain monsters could re-emerge after being revived during a ritual encounter. Yeah. Yeah, that was annoying. I got stuck in rituals a couple of times. Yeah. Fixed a bug where the red boss arena perimeter blockers were not being removed correctly in the Steaming Springs, Beryl Bog, and Rustwell. Oh, fantastic. So many times I've been doing those maps, just got stuck at the boss, not been able to go back and do an ritual or something. Fixed a bug where the compare feature on the passive skill tree was not functioning correctly. A few people have been calling this one out. That's nice to see, so good. And then some client and instance crashes. So overall, I mean, it's definitely one of the patches of all time, and I would love to know your thoughts in the comments. I don't think this is going to make a material difference to how endgame feels, other than there will be a lot more currency will inflate, gear will inflate, everything will stay about the same, we'll be able to exalt slam a lot more tier rares, but I'm not seeing any real incentive to do the proper endgame content, because all the drops there are still neutered. Need to play it. Need to do some maps, need to do some sims, need to see what the drops feel like. But I don't feel like this is the right change. I think the right change is to fix the items that they've completely bricked, which is to stopping people caring about running the bosses and deflating the value of everything you do get out of maps, because the boss drops have no value. That's where the problem is, as far as I can see it. Anyway, if you enjoyed this one, guys, don't forget to give it a like and maybe a subscribe. It really helps the channel and all that. I'll still be streaming the game, don't you worry. So I'll catch you there. Have a good one.